The grand wedding hall glittered under chandeliers, filled with guests whispering about the most anticipated wedding of the year. Amelia Hart, in her flowing ivory gown, stood behind the doors, heart racing with both nerves and joy. Today she was going to marry Ethan, the man she believed was her soulmate. As the doors opened, Amelia's smile shone as bright as the aisle lined with roses. Every step she took was a promise of forever. But halfway through, she noticed Ethan's uneasy expression. His eyes avoided hers, and his grip on the ring in his hand was trembling. When the officiant asked if he would take Amelia as his wife, Ethan hesitated. Gasps filled the hall. Then, to Amelia's horror, another woman, Serena, stepped forward, draped in a red silk dress, her lips curling in victory. "I can't do this," Ethan whispered, shame painting his face. "I love her." "Not you." The words stabbed Amelia's heart like knives. Her veil slipped as her knees threatened to buckle, but she steadied herself. Guests muttered in shock, cameras flashed, and the once celebrated couple became the center of a scandal. Tears burned in her eyes, but Amelia refused to let them fall. With her dignity intact, she lifted her chin, walked down the aisle, not to Ethan, but past him and out of the hall. Behind her, whispers chased her. How humiliating. Poor girl. But Amelia thought only one thing. He broke me today, but this won't be my end. Outside, under the fading sunset, Amelia made a silent vow, not to a man, but to herself. This betrayal would not destroy her. It would become the fire that reshaped her destiny. The morning after the wedding disaster, Amelia sat alone in her bedroom, her wedding dress discarded on the floor like a broken dream. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Messages of pity, gossip and scandal filled the screens. Every news channel was replaying the moment Ethan chose Serena over her. She felt like the entire world was laughing at her pain. But then came a call she didn't expect. Her father's longtime lawyer, Mr. Graham, asked her to come to the firm immediately. Confused and emotionally drained, Amelia arrived dressed in a simple black dress, her face pale but her eyes fierce with quiet determination. Inside the polished office, Mr. Graham revealed a sealed envelope, her late father's final will. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. Her father, Richard Hart, had been the CEO of Hart Industries, a global empire worth billions. Everyone had assumed the company would pass to the board or distant relatives, but the will told a different story. "To my daughter, Amelia Hart," the lawyer read, "I leave not just my name but my legacy. You are the rightful heir and CEO of Hart Industries." Amelia froze. The room felt both heavy and light at the same time. Board members present muttered in disbelief. Some scoffed, "She's too young. She's inexperienced. This company will collapse under her." But Mr. Graham looked at Amelia with steady eyes. "This was your father's wish. You are the new CEO." For the first time since her betrayal, Amelia's lips curved into the faintest smile. She wasn't just a broken bride anymore. She was the head of an empire. Meanwhile, across town, Ethan and Serena watched the breaking news. Abandoned bride becomes youngest CEO of Hart Industries. Ethan's glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. His face turned pale. The woman he had humiliated had just risen to a position of unimaginable power. Amelia, standing tall in the lawyer's office, whispered to herself, "This is not the end of my story. This is the beginning." The boardroom of Hart Industries was filled with tension. Dozens of executives sat around the polished oak table, their eyes fixed on Amelia as though she were an imposter who had trespassed into their world. The new CEO, the young woman they'd seen humiliated at her own wedding, was now expected to lead one of the most powerful companies in the nation. "Miss Hart," one board member sneered, "your father built this empire over decades. What makes you think you can run it when you've never stepped foot inside this boardroom before?" Amelia felt the sting of his words, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she placed a leather folder on the table and opened it. "Because I learned from my father. For years, he brought me into his private study, showed me strategies, mergers, risks. I wasn't just his daughter, I was his student. And now I am his heir." The room fell into silence. Amelia continued, her voice steady and commanding. "Hart Industries will not be run by fear, greed, or arrogance. It will be run with vision. My vision." For weeks that followed, Amelia worked tirelessly. She stayed late in the office, studied every file, every market trend. She made bold decisions, cutting off corrupt suppliers, signing deals that others thought were too risky, but turned into profits. Slowly, the same executives who doubted her began to respect her. Meanwhile, Ethan watched from the sidelines. He couldn't believe the transformation. The woman who once cried for him was now standing on podiums, giving speeches as the youngest female CEO in the region. News outlets praised her brilliance, and investors flocked to her. Every article about her success felt like salt in Ethan's wounds. He remembered the look in her eyes on their wedding day, broken, betrayed. Now those same eyes shone with determination and strength. One evening, Amelia stood at her office window looking at the glowing city lights. She whispered almost to herself, "Thank you for breaking me, Ethan. Because of you, I found the woman I was meant to be." And for the first time, she no longer felt the pain of betrayal, only the thrill of power and rebirth. Ethan sat alone in his office, his tie loosened, his desk cluttered with unopened files. His company, once thriving, was slipping through his fingers. Deals collapsed, investors pulled out, and whispers spread that he was reckless and unreliable. And every news channel, every business magazine, had Amelia's face on the cover. The young CEO who defied the odds. From betrayal to power. Amelia Hart's rise. Each headline pierced Ethan's pride. He remembered the day he betrayed her, thinking Serena's charm and boldness would bring him the excitement Amelia lacked. But Serena's love for him faded as quickly as her loyalty. She drained his resources and disappeared when things turned sour. Now Ethan was left with nothing but regret. He attended events only to see Amelia walk in, radiant and untouchable. The room would light up when she entered, powerful men and women gravitating toward her, eager for her approval. Ethan felt invisible in her presence. One night, desperate, Ethan decided to confront her. He found her leaving Hart Industries, her heels clicking against the marble floor, her posture flawless. "Amelia," he called softly, almost pleading. She paused but didn't smile. Her eyes, once filled with love for him, were now sharp, unreadable. "What do you want, Ethan?" she asked coldly. I made a mistake. Serena was nothing. You're the one I should have chosen. Please, can we—" Amelia cut him off with a bitter laugh. "You should have thought of that before you humiliated me in front of the world. Do you think I'd ever go back to a man who broke me?" Ethan's voice cracked. "I regret everything, Amelia. I regret losing you." She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "Good," she whispered, "because regret is all you'll ever have left." With that, she walked past him, her driver opening the car door as if sealing her departure from his life forever. Ethan stood frozen, the reality sinking in. He had lost not only her love but also the chance to ever be part of her new world. The gala hall sparkled with golden chandeliers and the low hum of laughter. Glasses clinking as the city's most powerful gathered. Amelia arrived in an elegant midnight blue gown, her presence turning heads instantly. Cameras flashed. Whispers followed her every graceful step. But she wasn't just there to dazzle. Tonight, Amelia was preparing for one of the biggest business alliances of her career. A rival CEO, Adrian Blackwood, known for his sharp mind and untouchable empire, had shown interest in partnering with Hart Industries. Many said Adrian was ruthless, a man who trusted no one. Yet when his eyes met Amelia's across the room, something in his expression softened. Adrian approached, his voice low and magnetic. "Miss Hart, you've built quite the reputation in such a short time. Bold, fearless, impressive." Amelia smiled politely, but there was steel in her tone. "I don't settle for less. Neither did my father. I intend to honor his legacy and surpass it." Their conversation drew attention. Investors whispered, some speculating romance, others fearing the sheer power their alliance could hold. Adrian, intrigued by her determination, proposed an exclusive partnership that would place them leagues above competitors. As Amelia considered his offer, Ethan watched from across the hall. He hadn't been invited but found a way in, desperate to see her. His jaw tightened as he saw Adrian leaning closer, Amelia laughing softly, her eyes glowing, not with love for him, but with newfound confidence. Unable to control himself, Ethan approached her after Adrian stepped away. "You're really going to work with him?" he asked bitterly. Amelia looked at him as if he were a stranger. "Adrian believes in my vision." "You never did." Her words stung more than any rejection. Ethan realized she had already stepped so far beyond his reach. He was nothing but a shadow in her story. Later that night, as Amelia signed the preliminary documents with Adrian, she felt something stir, not just power but possibility. Maybe, just maybe, her heart could open again, but only for someone who saw her true worth. The city skyline glittered. Under the night sky as Hart Industries prepared to unveil its most ambitious project yet, an innovation that would redefine the market. Amelia stood at the podium, dressed in a sleek white suit that radiated power. Cameras flashed, journalists leaned forward, and investors applauded. She was no longer the betrayed bride. She was Amelia Hart, the woman who turned Heartbreak into empire. As she delivered her speech with poise, Ethan stood at the back of the hall, uninvited, hidden in the shadows. His company was in ruins. Serena had abandoned him long ago, and he was drowning in debts. Watching Amelia command the stage felt like salt in his deepest wound. When the event ended, Ethan finally gathered the courage to approach her. His once confident stride was now hesitant, his eyes hollow. "Amelia," he whispered, his voice breaking, "please, give me another chance. I can't live like this. I regret everything, choosing her, leaving you, humiliating you." "I was a fool." Amelia studied him, her face calm, unreadable. For a moment he saw the woman he once loved in her eyes, but it was only a flicker. Then her expression hardened. "Regret doesn't undo betrayal, Ethan," she said, her voice cold yet steady. "I don't hate you anymore. I don't even think about you. That's how I know I've truly won." Ethan's knees nearly buckled under the weight of her words. She didn't scream, didn't seek revenge. Her indifference was worse. It meant he no longer mattered. Adrian appeared beside her, placing a supportive hand on her back as they walked toward the awaiting cameras. Reporters snapped photos of the powerful duo, calling out her name with admiration. Ethan stood alone in the corner, tears burning in his eyes. He realized he hadn't just lost Amelia. He had lost his chance to ever be part of her world again. Amelia glanced once over her shoulder, not at him but at the life she had left behind. Then she turned forward, a faint smile on her lips. Her sweetest revenge wasn't in his suffering, it was in her triumph. And with that, the chapter closed.